Welcome to the podcast that discusses storytelling from all angles to help you and us answer the call when the muse screams, "Tell the damn story." We'll be exploring the challenges of being creative in fiction, illustration, comics, film, and nonfiction. Okay, on today's episode, we're going to talk about how you power through mountains of work. How do you hit those deadlines? How do you keep going when everything is piling up? Tim, what do you think?
Well, how you doing, Chris? How you doing, Alex?
Hey, how you doing, Tim?
I'm doing okay. I've done a little research on it, and I have finally realized something that a dear lady told me back in 1988 when I was working on a strip, one of the first strips I had ever done, and it was taking me a while to finish the project. And she looked at me and she said, "You're trying to avoid the pain." And I never forgot that, because doing this work is laborious. It is painful. It requires conditioning. Now that said, that pain, believe it or not, can turn into almost an aphrodisiac. We tend to call it, you see athletes or writers or artists, you say you're in the zone. And when you're in the zone, what you're really saying is that you become productive within that space of labor. And as it applies to me right now, you'll notice I have a beard. I have engaged in certain time-saving features, such as if you don't shave, you don't have to waste time shaving. So that's a real big deal. That's one. Two, and this is the part that I'm most ashamed of, but I'll say it because I'm trying to share with our audience.
Okay.
It helps to wash the dishes, helps to clean. However, if you don't, you save time, you can keep working. That, of course, will cause problems at home. Also, bathing is something that is optional, particularly when you're working at a studio in-house, as well as clothing can also be optional. But these are the things that I would say, particularly as of right now, I am doing some of the best work of my career. And I have not been very sociable with the outside world. I haven't gone outside really in about I think I taught a class on Monday. What's today? Thursday?
All day.
I haven't gone outside in 3 days because that's the only way the work gets done. Now, I can say working in a digital... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, so basically you're saying that you, as you put it, get into that zone. And that zone for you means that you put certain other activities to one side so that you can power through the work, as opposed to maybe breaking up some of that workflow by doing some of those other extraneous activities like bathing.
Yes, you become obsessive about it. That's the only way the work gets done for me. I'm sure there are other people who are much more efficient, but for me, the way the work gets done is you have to sit down and... Can we use a little profanity on this show, or is that inappropriate?
That's up to Chris.
Chris? Oh, we have the word damn. Just bust your... There we go.
Yeah, okay. There you go.
Goddamn title. That's right. So that's how you do it. That's how you do it. To that end, I think while I'm talking, I'm going to show you guys a little bit of the work that you have not seen.
All right. Well, let's get to what Alex, how he would say, and what I would say, and then you prep the work while we round it out. Alex, how do you do it?
I put it off as long as I can. Yeah, I mean, for me, it sort of depends a lot on the project. I think that I agree with Tim that, life is what happens to you, and if you're a solo artist, then maybe you have less responsibilities and demands and things coming at you from family or whatever. But if you are a family person, then you have family time or family responsibilities, and then you have to get the work done as well. If you can go to a studio, or if you have a space away from all of those things, that's useful. And I've had that. There was about a year or two where I had my writing studio space that I went to, and it was great because I could, whatever I was dealing with, I could go there, and that was my space. That was all that space was for, away from everything else. And even if I wanted to take a nap, I knew at the moment I woke up, I could jump right back to the work. When I'm working at home, sometimes it's about, everybody respecting your space, and you saying to yourself, no matter what happens, I've got to focus on this. I've got to get this work done because this is paying the bills, or this is my reputation, or this is whatever. So there's a mindset that's involved. There's a certain amount of, again, if you're in a family situation or you're sharing space, there's a certain amount of mutual respect that's necessary. People will not interrupt you, or you should not allow people to interrupt you when you need to. And I don't know about you, Chris, but one of the things I find hardest to explain to people initially, eventually folks who are awake, they get it. But when you're a writer and you're writing a scene, especially a dialogue scene, and you have to get into your characters' heads so that what they say is organic to their characters and is following along the theme, the plot, the clues, or whatever. When people walk in and break that, it takes you out of that space. You sometimes lose dialogue, you lose this, you lose that. So it's really about being clear that it costs you not to really look at how much focus you can put on your work, how much seclusion you can give yourself, and how much time, how you can set your time, work your time, so that you can get some work done. Okay. In a perfect world, you organize. In an imperfect world, you go back and forth, but you deal with it as best you can.
Well, there are ways to address those things. One of the ways, if you want to get solid writing in without the distractions or the interruptions from other human beings, write when those people are not up. I tend to write pre-dawn because everyone else is asleep. I started this when my sons were small, because once babies are up, they don't care what you're writing. So you look at your life. You have to read
what you're writing.
You have to be very honest with yourself. That's always the hardest part. What can you do, right? So say you only have an hour. Maybe you only have an hour. Maybe you have your half an hour during lunch, right? Then you're not thinking about, I have to write a whole novel, or I have to draw an entire graphic novel. What you're looking at is, I have to get a page done. I have to get 1,000 words done. I have to get this scene, this chapter. Sometimes it's like I just have a couple of index cards and I have to get notes down. Whatever it is. What you want to do as a writer, as a creator, as an artist, is find the path that works for you. If it's 10 minutes at a time, if it's 4 a.m., if it's after the kids are bed, if it's staying a little bit late at work and doing some time there on your iPhone or whatever, if it's taking notes or writing or just visualizing while you're on your commute, these are the things you have to do. If you think I need to get the entire mountain climbed, you will not climb the mountain. If you say I have to take the next step, you will eventually climb the mountain. Step at a time, sentence at a time, sometimes a word at a time. That's the way you do it.
Well, I'm curious. That's the way you do it. Is that a mandatory thing? In other words, do you feel that's how everybody does it? That's how all writers do it?
I think everybody finds what works for them. Sure. I think everybody finds where their time is. I think everybody finds what their passion is. And for you, it might be I have to work in between the moments of family. If that's what works for you, that's what works for you. But the dedication, the key, the secret is to commit to finding that.
Right. Absolutely.
Whatever it is, you have to find it, and then you work that magic.
Right. You have to literally will yourself into doing this work, and particularly if the work is really involved, like the stuff that I've been doing as of late is incredibly involved because there's a certain standard that I want to hit, and the term I would use is cinematically. There's a term, there's a standard I want to hit. Just don't want it to look like a regular comic book because these projects that I'm doing, Maddie's Rocket and Blackjack, right now at this particular point in my life and my career, are a kind of a liberating myself to express who and what I am as an artist, and to also show what I've been doing for the last of 15 years. And so that requires that I have to sit down. I have to.
And Tim, I would say that you probably sit down better now, have better discipline now than when you first started.
Chris, thank you so much for saying that, but that's not true. I'm still, what it is I've had to. There have been times when I've been super efficient, but what it is I think C. Daniel Dawson, this is one of my, I guess I would call him a mentor, told me once that it's like reading in an academic setting is something I had difficulty doing because I hadn't spent a lot of time in college. And he said, well, it's a muscle. You have to condition yourself to read those kind of academic texts. And he said, the more you do it, the better you get at it. And so that's one of the reasons why I went to Alex to begin with to say, hey, man, I want to do this project because I knew, okay, I'm going to quasi be beholden to someone else to produce work. And then I knew eventually, of course, I was going to do everything in my power to put it off, but then eventually he was going to come call and say, Tim, I need my stuff.
Well, Tim, I'm going to do something else, too. I'm going to tell you that as I'm looking at your screen, nothing's happening. I think you have that one image there. Did you want us to see you drawing? Because it's not moving. I didn't know if there was something, yeah.
Case in point, he's going to come calling. So... So the idea is that what I'm doing is I'm actually literally working a lot, but trying to get myself conditioned to work for hours and hours again on it. Now I got to get my bikes. You guys have seen in my screenshot there. I have my bikes back there. I've got to finish cleaning up the room here, the studio or living room. And then I've got to literally I have to start working out because I'm becoming sedentary. I guess that's the word.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah, you're becoming sedentary, and I'm becoming large. Yes, that's the reality of that.
Sure, and I don't
mind. That brings us to two different topics. Let's talk about that right first, and then I want to go back to the idea of cleaning. Do you feel the effects? We all make the sacrifice of sitting to do the work. Do you feel the effects of that physically taking away energy from that work? I mean, is it kind of a downward spiral?
Yes, I would say it can be very depleting in a lot of ways, and at other times it can be energizing, or it can be really a rest, a break. It depends on where you are. I mean, for instance, for me, if I'm struggling with a piece and it's just not coming to me, and it's really, it's just I'm almost a blank. Sometimes I'll go do something domestic, the dishes or fold clothes or whatever, and because that's sort of automatic work, it doesn't require quote unquote great thought. Your mind is a little bit loose. It's more relaxed. It can float. And sometimes the ideas or concepts or whatever that you've been struggling with because you're focused, it comes to you now, it just sort of drifts in. And then you go, oh, that's it, boom, and you can go back to it. Sometimes you need that break. Sometimes you need to go outside and get some air. Those things do work for me.
I understand those breaks. What I'm trying to get at is sometimes we are writing a project or drawing a project over months. And we're committing hours in the chair. Sometimes you just have to get yourself to get in the damn chair and do the work.
That's right.
Do you find after months of doing that you've lost strength, you've lost physique, you have lost. I'm wondering how much of my own health I have sacrificed for the big push over the last 2 years to do all the writing I'm doing. I'm reevaluating that maybe I got to build in some exercise, some physical activity to keep the stamina of the writing. Do you find committing to the chair affects the health?
Yes. However, it is not something that cannot be, it's not something that can't be overcome, because I've done it before. I've lost, 80 pounds before while working like an animal, and it's because I built it into my routine. What's happening now is that, when I was doing animation, of course, as I was doing the animation, it was all right to not see the outside world because, I was doing everything myself. But now where I'm collaborating with someone and we're on deadlines, we got, benchmarks we have to hit, and so these things are a part of, they're essentially part of the, it's part of the deal. And so as a result, I find that if, what it is for me, you have to, when it's time to sleep, you have to sleep. You have to will yourself to sleep, because that's where I
don't. Well, I think that's true if you're trying to be, or if you're by your nature intelligent that way. But I think a lot of us are not. I think we become passionate about the project. I think we bury ourselves in it. I've done this on different projects where that's all I do. I get up and I do it, and I do it, and days or weeks or months go by, and then you come out of it, and there's a euphoria coming out of it, having finished the thing. But yeah, you've lost health in other ways, or you've lost a certain amount of physical health that you now have to try and get back, if you even think about that. I mean, I know a lot of writers who are sedentary, because what they live for is the writing. They don't live for exercising. They don't live for proper diets and all that. They live for that creation experience, and that can work against you as well as it can make you feel like a human being.
And the point that I'm trying to make with comparing there is that originally we're talking about how to power through that mountain of work, but it's a cautionary tale. We really, it's a short-sighted thing to lose track of the big picture for the current project, because you want to be able to replenish that power, replenish that sleep, replenish that energy, so that you can continue to power through and get through that project and then the next project. So as much as this episode is about powering through the work, you have to know that there's a few levels to that, right? Remembering to eat, getting your sleep, kind of getting up and moving around a little bit, so that all of that continues to feed into your ability to do the work.
Also, there's an advantage, I would say. There have been periods, like a lot of people, I suffered greatly during the recent recession, Great Recession, whatever they call it. To the point where a lot of different things, that now are not even an issue, were major issues, and we're just talking about just a few years ago. And one of the things that got me through that period, short of my kids, is the fact that I was able to work, and I was able to work on my stuff. So there would be times when I would actually be on errands, running stuff for highly unpleasurable experiences, but because I could work while I was there, it made it a little bit more bearable.
There were some problems, and so I think before we do the next episode, we should talk about them. Yeah. Okay. So, Chris, what were the problems for you?
I thought we sucked. I don't think we were listening to each other. I don't think we were focused in on each other.
Right.
I was as frustrated with myself as with the show. Yeah, I don't think we did our best.
I can't tell, which is I guess alludes to what Chris is saying about their focus, and it's because frankly I am in the middle of work zone, guys. I am busting every ball I can here to get this stuff done, and so. That's why sometimes I almost feel like if the show is going, I just want to be able to draw while it's on. Chime in, everyone, be like the visual guy, something, that's where I am. But in terms of, I think I did answer the question that was put to me, and I'm hoping that I was at least entertaining, and
Okay. I felt a little bit like I was on an episode of The View, and I say that because of this. My feeling about how shows like this can be done when people are speaking off the cuff is that, like Chris was saying, you should be listening to each other, but also if there's a problem, then somehow we need to bring that out and get back on track. And instead, I felt like we were getting frustrated, and I don't find that useful. I think it would have been, like, I'm not sure. I know that my responses, initially my early responses were my responses to the question, but then starting out 2 days ago, or whenever it was we started, we agreed we were going to set up what the themes are going to be. I thought we were going to talk about it yesterday and decide, and then that way today we would come into it being better prepared. And instead we didn't, and we came into it a couple of minutes before we started taping. So if we're going to do that, then we need to be a little bit more flexible and honest on air and say, wait a minute, whoa, okay, no, really and be able to give and take with each other, or redirect, or actually go, hold it. No, what I'm asking is so that we are not being frustrated by the experience, but we're actually having the experience and trying to give a good show that is clear. That's my feeling. I felt the tension starting to build up, and I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't as honest as I needed to be about clearing it up.
I could see what Chris was trying to get out, and it wasn't coming out, and then that started to get him frustrated, but we kind of all entered this a little bit with the baggage of the rest of the day. So I understand that. I'm just trying to, so when it started happening about the time when you were talking about the does it actually physically affect you, that's when it started to slow down a bit. It was harder to recover.
I would then say probably that would have been a great answer right there, because obviously it did, to some degree, that we did bring baggage to the table, and that did affect.
So we need to be conscious that we have a half-an-hour format.
Right.
Right.
We definitely need to listen to each other a little bit. I think, again, I don't think know that any answer should be longer than a minute and a half.
Right.
And have more of a conversation. I also think I'm gonna have to throw this cat out. Excuse me. I also think that if we agree on a theme, we should stay on that theme.
Right.
Excuse me for a minute. That cat wants me on TV.
I agree with that. The minute to a minute and a half is difficult, but I feel like that would actually be a good thing for you guys to shoot for. The only thing with it today, and it would be an interesting experiment to see if you guys can pull it off today, is again, like you chose a broad topic, but there weren't any fillers in that broad topic that we went over. So it was difficult, and like again, you saw moments of just you rambled because you didn't know exactly where to go next, which is fine. in this kind of setting. But if it's not what you're looking for, then all right. So now we have to change our direction. So if you want minute to minute and a half things, then I believe we should try to flesh out exactly how you want the show, or even just a broad synopsis of where the show's going. So you have at least bullet points to jump to as it continues on.
And Chris has done this too. We both have worked in film and stage, and I've done commercials and things. I think I just need to say this. What we're asking ourselves to do right now is hard. I'm not saying it's impossible. We're not doing any rehearsals. We started out with a loose conversational format that we've now been playing around and trying to decide, well, is it going to be an hour and we can relax and do this, or is it going to be a half hour? And so we're experimenting, and we're trying to create this thing literally as we go. And I think frustrating each other or being frustrated with ourselves is not going to be healthy for us. I think we're going to wind up having problems. So I think, one, we need to relax into the fact that this is new and we're experimenting. It's not going to be perfect. Loose to me is, okay, what we just did may not have been wonderful, may not even work. So then the options are, do we do it again? Having stepped on our toes, not having had any rehearsal before, do we see this as rehearsal? Or do we go into the next episode and try and be better and make new mistakes, as well as maybe find some new brilliant moments? You know, but I think we need to relax into this. I don't want us to start feeling like we've got to, you know, be on target, because then it means we need to do more prep before we go into recording. You know, there's a certain amount of informality that we're working with. I think we should be more conscious of how long-winded we can be. And certainly I know how to talk in 30 seconds, but are we going to give minute-long or short little answers like that? Do we have enough to say in that format? That's an experiment. That's something to see if it works that way. And I'm not sure. I'm not negative. I'm just not sure. I don't know.
Yeah. Am I coming off detached? Because I can't tell what I'm doing. I'm listening, but I'm not listening totally because I'm doing the work as well.
No, I'll tell you what you're coming off as, Tim. You're coming off as you're rambling at times, because your focus is on it. So you're talking, but sometimes you go away from whatever it was Chris was asking or whatever. I mean, it's part of what we're figuring out now.
I'll also add, Tim, like you are definitely passionate about your work. Like, it makes perfect sense. You also have to remember when to turn it off when you're not teaching to us. Like, because again, as much as you're teaching, we want to know everything you're doing, but save some of it for another section. Right. Because if we get like exactly what you're doing every moment, it's great for those people who really want to know, but it does kind of slow down the pacing of the rest of the show.
All right.
Well,
so
that's the challenge.
All gold, just
each one of us,
and that is the challenge.
Each one of us teaches, so we're very comfortable with long format, almost lecture or informative talk. And we have to do it in bite-sized chunks. Instead of the whole Milky Way, it's the little tiny one.
I'll do the Raisinets myself.
You know, Matt, you made a comment or a suggestion about this process and having this conversation. You're actually right. This is this part of it is a pretty good episode.
Yeah.
Maybe
again, we could
one of the episodes. You know that. You know, I'm not sure how you would split it in, but that whole idea of it not working and stopping, maybe it's just a black screen. We felt it wasn't working, and we discussed it. Here's the discussion of, you know, how you create one of these things. Well, the other part of it, and the part that breathes life into a show like this, is us figuring out how it works, you know.
Collaboration.
Yeah, well, I mean, this conversation that we're having now is feels a lot better than the one we when we had 20 minutes ago.
Now we're having a conversation.
You said you can see where it started to tense up. You
Right.
got it there, black screen. You know, the episode kind of got away from them, so they decided to have an on-air conversation about this. And you
so
probably cut
they
this
went.
part out.
I could. Yeah, I could. I could. Or I could leave it.
I vote we have faith in Matt and see what he comes up with from our conversation.
Oh, thanks.
No pressure, Matt.
Yeah, thanks.
I'll just. Yeah. So here's my question: Do we let that go as an episode and let Matt do what he's going to do with it, and go on to the next episode? Do we want to try and attack that theme again, and this time see if we're a little bit better at it?
Well, let's say this, or here's my suggestion. Let Matt take what we have, and wherever he feels like this is when it went off the rails, at that point, let him splice in stuff from here, okay? So they can see the reality. You know, this is what we're working on, and then from there we can stop in a few minutes and start a new episode, slightly adjusted.
Okay.
You know,
okay. I'm fine with going on. I just wanted to see what we were thinking collectively.
Yeah, I'm okay. I love that idea that Matt was talking about of making essentially an addendum.
Well, here's the other thing too. Just so that we're in agreement on how this works. If one of us is rolling a little too long, I feel we should have the freedom, all of us, to jump in and go, okay, that was great. Now, what we and move it on, move it,
and
you know, the way
continue the conversation as opposed to give a direction, right? Just ask another question, or yeah.
Chris, I was going to ask that when, as we're going along, in that, in this new one, that you're gonna hit us with a question, and I'm gonna be more attentive, and you know, we'll all listen. And when you want to move on to the next section, just jump in. If I'm talking, is Tim talking, whatever, just jump in. You know, just cut us off so that we can, you know, move along the way we want to.
Beautiful.
Okay. Tim, I'm curious.
Yes.
When you're drawing, you're not looking at our screen, are you? You're not seeing the so he's not getting those messages. He won't see them.
What I'm doing is I can set the screen to. Oh man, you guys have really been chatting here. Right. Yeah.
You know what we need? Hold on a second. I think I have it right here.
Uh-oh.
If we need Tim to look at his at the chat, we'll go.
Oh, my wife likes that idea.
Room service.
That's not a bad idea.
If you want to hear more about the show or any of us, go to tellthedamnstory.com.